good day. I guess it all depends on the time of day you're tuning in and listening to this episode of Chatting with the Lightkeeper. Anyway, where I am, it's a few minutes before 9 o'clock on a chilly fall night, and I know everyone was in a frenzy waiting for me to come with this episode, so not to disappoint, I'm back. And speaking of frenzy, this evening I want to chat with you a little bit about sub frenzy. In case you haven't heard of it, let me do my best to explain what sub frenzy is. And it is, I don't want to use the word affliction, but it's the one that comes to mind. It's a state of mind that primarily um, is found in submissives, where they feel the need to almost an uncontrolled need, almost like an addiction, that they need to submit or play, yes, role play, and experience all of that, and it has to happen now. Very much like somebody who is looking for their next fix on the drug of their choice, which of course leads to bad bad things can happen when you're in that state of mind because it's very easy to be taken advantage of, um, which is never a good thing. Primarily, it happens to those who are new or newer to the lifestyle because they haven't been in a way around the block enough to see the bad things that can happen. There is definitely a willingness and almost an eagerness to set aside red flags. Um, and because the need can be so strong to submit and to experience um, the feelings and experiences that the submissive is very willing to put themselves in very unsafe situations um, to get the thrill that they are seeking. The other thing that comes out of this sometimes too is horrid relationships because somebody is so desperately seeking to have these feelings and to have them acted upon that they will enter relationships that are very detrimental for themselves. Um, so it's a very, very dangerous thing that can happen to those that are newer, especially submissives. You hear a lot about sub frenzy. However, there is also the dominant side of it. Yes, there are some DOMs who do enter a frenzied state where they just have that same urge just from the other side of the slash. However, for me, it's a huge red flag um, when a dominant will will fess up to the fact, and many who have experienced it won't, especially when they're talking to someone that is a potential partner, because it is a red flag. Because a dominant is a person that needs to be able to exercise self-control, and by admitting to the fact that they've been in a frenzied state, it can be a red flag, a warning. What happens if you enter a relationship with this person and they become overwhelmed with their desires? What would happen? What could happen? I also think that sometimes the way it manifests itself online is some of the bad behavior that the online dominant, or as I like to occasionally say, dominants, um, exhibit. I think comes from not only being uneducated about the lifestyle. Many are just idiots, but sometimes I think some of that bad behavior that the online dominants are lampooned for comes because these individuals have found themselves in a frenzied state. Uh, and it's often easy to find, especially with dominants and even submissives, because they will be in kind of an all play all the time mindset. That's all they're going to want to talk about and that's all they're going to really express as a need. Because it's really all they're wanting. Even the ones that do find themselves in bad relationships, it's almost always because they entered things for the play and ended up somehow trapped in a bad relationship because of their need to have this play and have it now. The other thing, well, before we get to that, let's take a quick pause here, and take a break, to have a quick word from the podcast sponsor, and I'll be right back to talk about being in a frenzied state and what to do if you find yourself there. So hang on just a minute, and we'll be right back to talk about that. Alrighty, thank you. Thank you for letting me pitch my sponsor there for a second. And anyway, we are chatting about sub frenzy and what to do if you start to find yourself in a place where you are craving the lifestyle and you realize that it is not in a healthy way. The first thing, I believe it's important just to slow down and have a couple of deep breaths. Um, Kind of breathe, relax, slow down. It's also important, I believe, to have acquaintances in the lifestyle. And I'm not talking about having perhaps told your closest friends or people in your personal everyday life. I know a lot of people who are newer to the lifestyle confine their explorations to just online, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very safe way to kind of dip your toe in and explore. And while you're dipping your toe in and exploring, I hope that people will have bumped into a couple other people that are on the same side of the slash as they are. If you're a submissive, hopefully you have a couple of submissive acquaintances that you could perhaps talk to, or even if you just have found yourself with a couple of, say, dominant acquaintances and you're a submissive, perhaps reach out to them and ask them if they might have a submissive or two that they would recommend you chatting with. I wouldn't necessarily recommend explaining why you want to have that conversation with somebody on the other side of the slash because uh, while I hope that they would be above board and good people, there are bad actors out there who could try to manipulate the situation for their benefit if they are a not so good person. Um, and it's also important to remember that what you're feeling is not a real need. It's a want. It's not a need. We need food, we need oxygen, we need things like that. Um, Experiencing lifestyle play is not something that you need. It's not going to be like going without food. Um, take that energy when you're feeling that strong desire and try to redirect it. Um, Perhaps even keep it directed in the lifestyle and use it as an opportunity to learn. Try and channel those feelings into a positive and area that will help help educate yourself about the lifestyle and using that energy to kind of fuel the learning. So if you can't talk to other people about it or not sure where to go, um, there are forums you can go to on FetLife and make a post asking for advice, or even on blogs. If you follow my blog, feel free to reach out to me. I will point you in the direction of, depending on the side of the slash you're on, to people that I would go to with my questions to get them answered and talk about things in a safe environment. Um, Another thing, write about it. Pull out a journal, express your feelings, write about it. Get it out, get it out by journaling. Another option, perhaps, if you're more ambitious, get physical. And I don't mean get physical and going out and engaging in play, but go for a walk, uh, go to the gym, be active, do active things that you like to do to distract your mind and to burn off that energy. Um, the other thing that can happen when people do experience a state where it becomes consuming, the lifestyle becomes a consuming thing where they have to experience it. Afterwards, a lot of times people do have bad experiences when they're in this position, and that causes them to feel unsafe with the lifestyle. Uh, it can be scary. So what happens a lot of times is the people who are newer, who are feeling these feelings, will take and pull back and either leave the lifestyle or take a hike, take a pause. And pausing isn't a bad thing, um, but it's a shame that on the whole that the lifestyle in essence loses people because of their desires. So even if you are somebody who is not experienced this, or if you have, you've come through it, you've learned from it, you've grown. Um, if you see somebody perhaps on a blog you follow, or something somehow pops up in your feed, or wherever it is you go to get your lifestyle information online, and you notice somebody that might be showing the signs of being in a frenzied state, reach out to them and just say hello and ask how they're doing. Um, you know, be positive. Explain what you saw and why. Because if as a community, if we work together, we can keep the community safer. It also help people from having bad experiences. And if they are in a frenzied state, it can be an eye opener when a stranger says, "Hey, I can see potentially where you're going with this. I've been there. Here's what happened to me, and I'm here to help." I think that as a community, we can do more to help people. We obviously can't help everybody because not everybody wants to be helped. But as a community, I think we can help keep the community safer by recognizing when we see people in a frenzied state, reaching out and offering advice, or if you find yourself in a state where you feel like you might start to make bad choices, or have the strong desire to make choices that you realize aren't the best, but it almost feels like an urge that you can't control. Reach out and talk to someone about it before you do engage in it. Anyway, I know this podcast is a little shorter in length, but it is the evening, and it's been a long day. So I hope that you will join me in working together. And if we see somebody who might be a little frenzied, a little overeager, a little too excited, work with them to pump the brakes. And if you are finding yourself, you know, very, very much on the verge of not being able to control the desires and urges you have, reach out and talk to somebody who's been around the lifestyle a little bit, and they can definitely lend a hand. But frenzy is something that we do need to watch out for, especially in our friends and acquaintances who are newer to the lifestyle, because it does happen, and it sadly happens more often than we'd like to admit. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, giving me a listen, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.